What's up, robo climbers? Welcome back to another video. We're building our ultimate climbing gym home wall in this amazing shed, barn. I don't even know what to call it. It's just amazing space we have to work with. If you haven't already checked out the earlier videos in this series where we talk about like what the project looks like as a whole, and we even have a video out about this vert wall, make sure you go back and start at the beginning of the playlist and enjoy this. But if you are up to speed, today what we're working on is the 30-degree wall. It's going to be kind of a main prow feature right here in the center. And it's going to come out from behind me and come up all the way up into the ceiling. Get basically our full height of 14 feet vertical gain, which I'm pretty excited about. So what we have here is the kickboard that I used for the moonboard at Real World Headquarters number 5, my previous build. And if you remember in the past, what I've done is I've just used like 2x8 and this is a 2x12 as a kicker. And then we use screw-on holds instead of bolt-on holds. So literally this is just gonna go back on this back wall here. We're just gonna screw it into place with these metal self-tapping screws right into the frame of the building, and it's going to be super bomb-proof. I did already nip off the corners at a 45-degree angle, and you'll kind of see why I did that in a little bit, but basically it just makes it kind of a nice smooth transition into and out of the walls on either side of it. All right, so that's our kickboard. Really, really solid. So next comes like the really crazy part, which is now I've got to take these 16 footers. So this is a 16-foot 2x4. This is gonna go full length of the wall. The challenge is I've done the math and I don't want to guess on the angle or the length. So I want it to be exactly 30 degrees. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the bottom at 30 degrees and rest it on here. And then we gotta decide how much of the top I have to nip off. I have to take the slope of the roof into account as well. And I want it to raise up and be like really, really flush on there. So I have to figure out the exact measurement. So the other thing I'm doing with this, because they're so long, there is a slight bow in it. So I want to find the side that has the bow and the concave side with the inside arch. I want that to be the face of the climb, so that way it will pull itself into straight as I put plywood on. So I'm deciding which side is the front face. So here is going to be the front face, so that when I cut this at 30 degrees, that will be the shorter, that's the side. So I'll start at this corner and cut this at 30 degrees. All right, so who knew that this was going to take so much math? But here's a side angle view of this 30-degree wall that I'm building with a 1-foot kicker. And this is kind of a scale model of the garage with the rise in the roof. So based on my math here, I have about a 15-degree sloped roof. This is where it gets kind of nerdy here. The bottom is going to be cut at 30 degrees. And then the top angle, if I wanted it to be flat, I would cut it also at 30 degrees, just like the opposite direction. So it would look kind of like a Z shape. But since the angle of the roof is another 15 degrees backwards, I'm actually going to cut the top angle at 45 degrees. So the first piece of math was to figure out what angle to cut the top of the stud at to make it be flush with the roof. The second piece I have to figure out is the length of the actual climbing surface to make it be 30 degrees angle. So I'm going to start with this here, this math here. I use the triangle calculator, and I know that I want it to be at a 30-degree overhang, and then I basically know how high up it is going to go up straight vertical. It's approximately 13 feet, so that will give me a 15-foot climbing surface on the hypotenuse of the triangle. So imagine that's my climbing wall right there. And so this C part is going to be the actual climbing surface. All right, so my math did check out. So 15 feet of climbing surface is what we're gonna actually end up with. Man, that's gonna be sweet. And that's not counting the kicker. So if you count the kicker, that's 16 feet of climbing surface on this one wall. Fingers crossed we got this right the first try. Then I can just take that board that I made there and use it as a template and just mark the lines on the other 4 boards, and then I will have them all in place. The first 3 that I put up are going to be attached to metal on these joists, and then the 2 that go in between are going to have to connect in a different way up at the ceiling. So now we're going to take the next board, which is this one here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find out which side has the concave side. All right, moment of truth. We're going to try and put the first of the studs up. Get it lined up as best as you can, and then you're going to hold it as firm as you can. Oh yes, it's on. It's like within 2/10, and in some places it's actually on. This is so good. So now we're going to attach at the bottom, and then I'm going to go back up and attach it into each of those pieces of metal. That's just the first phase. Then additional supports will be done from this tying back into here at several different levels, probably 2 different levels. Oh yes, so good. So down here at the bottom, I made sure to leave it out from this edge of this kicker by 3/4 of an inch, because the plywood is just going to rest right on top of there. So that was an on-purpose decision. All right, so I got the outside 2 and the one in the middle. They're the ones that connect to the metal really well. But these in-between ones are not going to connect to the metal because there is no metal joist work there. So I got to do a couple different things. Number 1 is down here at the bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this board here flush, thicker chunk. And I have these brackets here that are shaped like a 2x4 that I've used in several other builds. So I'm just going to give a double thick place for this to attach to. And then I'm going to be cutting 2 additional boards that are going to go, and they're going to span across there like a connection point. And it'll just give me an additional thing to screw the top of the boards into. So one thing I want to say about that is, obviously in my plans, I for sure knew I was going to have studs at least every 2 feet. And I knew that the most solid ones would be attached to the metal. But this is just like another instance of understanding what's possible and having done this so many times. So when I designed it, I knew I was going to have to attach it here somehow. And so when I got to this point, my solution to add to the depth here and to use those brackets, it's something I have a repertoire of, and so I just remembered it. So that's why I make the plans for how I want it to look in general, and then I do specific measurements and figure things out as I go. So now I'm ready to put these 2 brackets on. And what I want to do in advance though is there's this little lip right here that I'm going to be able to catch the front of the next 2x4 in. But obviously it's now at a 30-degree angle. So I need to hammer that out a little bit, and then I'll hammer it back once the board is in place, and then even screw into it. I'm just going to open these up a little bit. Not a ton, because I still want it to be shaped right, but enough to get the board in. As we were doing before with my helper Gavin helping, is we're lining up the front of the board to be 3/4 of an inch away from the front of the kickboard. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure that I want the lip of the bracket, you know, for where the wood is gonna go. Now we can screw this in here through the side. So you see this? They got these little holes on the sides. Check that out. What a thing of beauty. So that's gonna wrap up just tonight. This video is not over though, so hang tough. Got a lot more to do to brace this in, and then we're gonna sheet it with plywood, so more to come. Check you in just a matter of seconds. All right, so next up what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the blocking between them. That will stop it from flexing side to side. It's also going to give me something to attach the top of the plywood to at each of the different 4-foot increments of plywood. And then at the same time, I think what we're gonna do is we're going to do the tie backs. So this is gonna tie back into the wall back here. So I need to create something that is going to be attachable to that side. That's twofold. It does provide some additional structure because these are so long. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of flex in them in the first place, but it creates a little bit of additional structure so that they don't have any flex. But also what it does is it's gonna allow me to have like this floor back here that will be able to be used for storage and for me to get behind there to access T-nuts if I need to fix anything in the wall. So that being said, what I need to do is I need to create something back here that this is gonna tie into. There is a slight difference in the distance between these because of where I attach them to the metal. So I'm gonna measure each one individually. So that's the first one. So then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna do the two that I can access from here first, and then I'll kind of toenail these other two in over here. All right, so now I'm ready to tie this back into the wall, but I want them to go into wood. So I've got these two pieces here that are gonna install right here, somewhere in this vicinity here. Yeah! All right, that's layer one. And now we gotta do it again at 8 feet and again at 12 feet, but that's gonna make this thing super sturdy. All right, so I'm skipping ahead a little bit. So we're gonna put the blocking in here. What I wanted to do is I wanted to figure out the next tie-in point back to the wall. I don't wanna have it be like you have to duck and have everything be just flat. So this first layer is flat, and I put a piece of scrap plywood on it so I could put a ladder on top of it. And then what I want to do is I want to take about half the distance between here and the joist work and do like an upward diagonal up to the top corner of the studs of the garage, the metal studs. So I'm actually gonna attach wood to metal. So my battery died right as I was installing this, so you didn't really get to see that. But I'm gonna go ahead and do another one up over here. All right, so we need to do a board that's 67 inches long. So now that we have that done, that was kind of a question mark as how I was going to tie it back in. And I feel like I've gotten that question answered adequately. It feels really, really solid, these three that have it. And there's still more tie-ins this way. And adding the plywood and everything like that is going to strengthen it up as well. So I feel really good about how solid this is. Now I think we're ready to do the second layer of blocking, and then the third layer of blocking is way up high. Now it's really starting to feel solid. All right, I think that does it for the blocking on this 30-degree wall. I'm gonna give it a little climb here. Nice. All right, so we're ready to start putting the sheets of plywood on the 30-degree wall. I picked these 3 that were previously used on Jack's wall. They're really high quality plywood, and I like the T-nut pattern. It's very condensed and lots of different T-nut options. There are a few that have blown out or the T-nuts have popped out, so I'm gonna add a few T-nuts here and there. And then these 3 are the main ones that are gonna give me the most distance. And then we're gonna use this 4th piece that Gavin is cleaning up for me as the top piece. So that's gonna get chopped up into the pieces that will fit up inside there. Now that I look at it, I'm kind of debating whether I wanna do like some kind of like hand crack up in that top section. So the top section of plywood is going to need to go around this beam here. And so I thought at first I would just be like, I would just cut one piece and just cut it very specific to make like this slide in spot that this can slide in. But I think it'd be just easier to put another beam right here, just a short one, and do 2 4-foot chunks, or just slightly less than 4 foot, and not have to go around this. So then the question mark is, do I want to have like some kind of hand crack in between here? I mean, the hand crack actually would only be this spot right here, because there wouldn't be really much climbing above here. How cool would it be? I'm just trying to think, like you're climbing, the edge of the plywood comes to like here. I don't know, I think it might be cool. So when we get to the portion where we're cutting that up, I'm gonna make the decision there, but I think it might be cool to have just this hand jam here. You can tell me what you think in the comments. All right, so we're gonna add back some T-nuts here. If I really wanted to, I could drill more holes and add more T-nut options, but I think these sheets of plywood are pretty good. Some of the other sheets that we're gonna end up using in other parts of the build, however, are not that condensed, and so I do believe we will want to add more T-nuts to those. So I'll show you that process when we get there. The main important thing here is to get them in straight, so that way they bolt in really straight. And then when you bolt them in the first time, it sucks the T-nut into the wood a little bit, and that's what gives it even more grip. And some of these were previously ones that popped out and kind of stripped. So I'm making sure to put the tines in different locations than they were before. And now we are ready to put the first sheet of plywood up. So I have selected this one as our first sheet. And like we talked about before, we purposely left a 3/4 inch lip on these, so it should rest on there nicely while we're putting it up. Gavin's gonna clamp it down, but I want it to stick out on that side and not this side. Why? Do you want to know why? Let's tell the camera why. So we're gonna have this giant adjustable wall here. If we ever want to lay that giant adjustable wall all the way down for repairs or for taking it apart or anything like that, we need to be able to have the clearance. And I'm just trying to save every little inch of clearance. So if I stick this out this way, equidistant to the side that's on that side, then I'm losing those valuable inches. So this is going to be as flush to this as possible, this side. And then I'm okay with it sticking out on this side because I'm building additional walls and framing over here that this will be able to connect to on this side. All right, there we go. Now we've got 2 sheets up, and again, just taking our time and doing it really, really smooth. lining anything up perfect. So I've done a lot of walls, and I do take pride in all the other walls I've done, but I think for some reason, like I just really want this to be perfect as best as possible. So things lining up, and this is just looking really good. So if you saw earlier, I used these upside down climbing holds as like handles to hold it in place. The higher ones are going to be even harder, especially with just one adult and one kid. So we'll have to see what we're going to end up doing to get the higher sheets of plywood up. Okay, go up a step. Get it on the ledge. Okay. Line yours up. Okay, push it towards you a little bit.
It's not completely lined a bit to me. Tiny bit there.
Towards you?
Yeah.
Up top.
Okay, I got clutch.
And that's just 12 feet. We still got another 3 feet more to go up. All right, we're on the home stretch for this 30-degree wall. What I have to do is I have to do this section up here at the top that's about 3 feet. So not quite a full sheet of plywood. So what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm gonna do it in just 2 chunks instead of trying to like form fit something that's exactly gonna slide up into this. So I'm gonna do 1 chunk that fits literally right here. Nice and clean and easy. And then 1 sheet that's gonna fit right here. What that's gonna leave is gonna leave this gap here because I'm gonna do an additional strip from here out here down to here. And so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave like this fist jam, hand jam section in here. And then I'm gonna build this back here to be a little bit deeper for the hand jams. And what I think is cool is I'm just making this decision on the fly. I didn't plan on doing a jam crack anywhere, although I think they are kind of fun here and there. But it also just kind of worked into the way I'm deciding to build it. So my encouragement to you is be flexible. So now I've got these nice smooth pieces of 2x6. I'm putting the smooth side on the inside for obvious reasons. And I'm gonna screw them in here. So then I have this little block here that is gonna come across like this to stop it from flaring at all. Let's test it out. I still have plywood here and here. I do my climb, get in here. Oh yeah. It's like wider than a hand crack. It's like a wide hands. So what I might end up doing is like putting some texture or something in here. Or I could even do like some little screw-on, some thin screw-on holds here that can kind of give it a constriction. It's a little bit, it's too wide for hands and too narrow for fists. That gets us ready to put these 2 sheets of plywood on. All right, so this one should be the side that's gonna go on the right. Now, it does have this little notch out here that was from the previous build. And rather than like starting a whole new sheet of plywood and etc., I'm actually just going to continue to use this one. It's such a good piece of plywood other than this. And what's interesting is this is going to end up being up in kind of the center of the thing. So I might actually make this into like a hold. So I'm going to kind of round these edges and then put a piece of backer plate like this. I could maybe do one with a T-nut, do something like that. Although it's so close to the edge, I don't know that there's a climbing hold that would really fit for it. So I think I'm just going to put a scrap piece of plywood like this and have it be like this little crimp edge here. All right, so what I'm going to do before I install these is I'm going to do like a finishing step that normally I would do much later in the process. So I definitely plan on fine-tuning like the edges and sanding down and rounding some corners. But I foresee the top little bit of this where it meets the peak of the garage. I foresee like there's going to be like a little bit of a finger kind of edge left over and potentially could be used as like a finishing hold on the tops of the walls, as well as, like I had said, that this is going to be some kind of hold as well. So I'm going to end up rounding these corners before I install it, because it'll just be much easier to do that before I install it than after. So I got my handy sander here, and we're just going to get after this. All right, so that looks really beautiful. I'm just being honest, that looks really, really good. And we definitely do have a climbing hold finish up here if we want it. One more to go, and then we have a completed wall. All right, everybody, so this is a 30-degree wall. 16 feet of climbing vertically, 8 feet wide. This thing is absolutely massive. It's the biggest thing I've ever built, and quite frankly, the cleanest. It is, every seam is like right up next to each other. Everything just fits so good. I'm just really pleased with how that turned out. I mean, check this out. If I'm underneath here for a sit-down start, I think this is gonna feel like a rope route almost. So that'll wrap up this video. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. If you are liking this kind of content where we're building home walls, we're talking about designing home walls, and eventually even training on these things, then I would love it if you would click the chains on the subscribe button. That way you can join me in the next one. I will talk to you soon.